It's another week on your Business and Finance Magazine program where we keep you up to speed on weekly developments in the world of business and finance, both within and around the world. Now, this is Portfolio reaching you from the stables of NTA News 24 here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. This week, we turn our attention on the need to ensure food security for Nigeria through empowering local farmers in Nigeria for improved production. But first, here is the business news segment with Comfort Amodu.
A warm welcome. It's good to have you join us. We begin with a report on the need to strengthen institutional frameworks to sustain and win the fight against corruption in Nigeria, value reorientation and reinforcement of institutional frameworks through strengthening of public and private institutions to promote merit and excellence as well as encourage dignity in labor.
Support institutions such as the police, such as the revenue authorities, and individuals who are strong. And I'm also saying at the continental level that it's critical for us to recognize that if we want in truth to realize the economic goals of Nigeria, and we already know about sustainable development, this thing called sustainable development is something that we must interrogate. What is it? And the reason is that you must bring the economies at a level where you can have a currency that can move. And this is important because corruption undermines this. If there is corruption in Nigeria and corruption in Guinea-Bissau and corruption in Benin and all these institutions are not strengthened, how do you have a common currency?
Meanwhile, federal government says it will vigorously pursue reforms like the Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative to improve revenue collection and expenditure. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed, who disclosed this at the Public Consultative Forum on the 2020 to 2022 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper, and the key thrusts of the plan are consistent with the AGRIC. Key assumptions include nominal consumption at 122.75 trillion, nominal GDP 142.96 trillion naira, growth rate at 2.93% and inflation at 10.81%. She says apart from other key focus of the present administration, creation of 100 million jobs in the coming years to address the problems associated with unemployment, which stood at 23.1% at the end of the third quarter of 2018, is paramount.
Million jobs over 10 years. So what we have as new ministers or ministers that are in the current cabinet is that every minister has been given some priority programs to implement. And each minister is now expected to design how they will achieve the targets that have been set for them. But there's one cross-cutting requirement that for each project that you make a case you want to implement, you must also show how much jobs is going to be created.
Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria has maintained open market operation auction rate for the third consecutive time. CBN sold a total of 183.64 billion naira across 3 maturities at the OMO auction, with stop rates across 80 to 185 and 346-day tenor at 11.59%, 11.79% and 13.50%. And that report concludes the news. Don't go away. Portfolio continues with Chimubi and Comfort Amodu.
Thank you and welcome back. Food security is one of the major responsibilities of any government in its quest to provide quality life and infrastructure for its citizenry. Now, this is why countries develop sustainable agricultural policies to enhance its food security through a healthy AGRIC system. Now, today we focus on this phenomenon and how Nigeria hopes to grow its agriculture and food production, with particular reference to pre-production, production, of course, post-production challenges challenges. And I have with me an AGRIC expert, Annabel Kamuche, to look at these issues and a possible way forward. Many thanks for joining us, Annabel.
Thank you very much.
All right, so yeah, looking at the fact that just recently the Federal Executive Council has been formed with key officers fully inaugurated. What kind of policy direction do you hope to see in the AGRIC sector, particularly in the nearest future?
Thank you again for having me. Part of what we hope to see in this sector, especially because it's an emerging sector, it's to see policies that would help with sustainability, policies that would look up to especially the areas where we have a lot of lacunas, a lot of issues in terms of standards for primary production. I'm looking at in the near future where the Ministry of Agriculture can champion the NQIP, which was part of what the UNIDO and some other stakeholders had done in trying to get a local standard for primary production in Nigeria to be enacted into law, so that the people who are in the primary production know that there are do's and don'ts in this sector. That will create sustainability, so that people can now begin to develop trust for products that are produced and processed and even manufactured in Nigeria.
Yeah, quite a number of expectations you have there. But between 2016 and of course 2017, a lot of attention was placed on the production of rice and yam, but basically for exports. We understand it had some challenges, but of course, at the same time, had some very interesting lessons to learn from that particular issue. Now, what are some of the things you would likely expect to see, this present crop of ministers to look at as it concerns agriculture? What areas do you expect that attention to be shifted to at this point in time?
Put in some sort of processing as part of this entire value chain. We've been focusing on production, but we're not talking about processing. They can even have processing that belong to cooperatives, where cooperatives, people are manning it, and then the people from these cooperatives can come and process their product. Because take, for instance, the rice. The local rice is almost still the same price with the imported rice, the foreign rice. And the question is, why is it still the same price? There is a gap. There is a knowledge gap. There is a technology gap. The knowledge gap has to be filled. The technology gap has to be filled. And then the gap for post-harvest processing also has to be filled, so that there will be enough product for us in Nigeria and we won't have to import. Because even if you don't ban importation, if there is enough here in Nigeria, it will not make any economic sense for anybody to want to go and import products into Nigeria.
That's quite important. Let's now go into the issue of production challenges, as you did rightly mention. How does this impact productivity? Are there things that the farmers are not doing right, and how can it be corrected?
The farmer is still farming according to the way it was done 50 years ago. But the agricultural sector has since evolved, and there are a lot of research that has helped with, for instance, the yield of maybe maize, for instance, or there are better varieties than what we are using right now. There are improved varieties. There are hybrids that people can use that would give you better yield. People also don't consider the location where they are producing, where they want to produce a particular crop. You find somebody trying to produce, someone who wants to produce, for instance, tomatoes, not even caring to do something as basic as soil analysis to find out what the pH level of this soil is, what the climatic condition, amount of rainfall, all of the things that build up to what the harvest will be at the end of the day. They are also not thinking about what market are you going to sell this product. Because if, for instance, you want to do a product and it's not something that you can sell maybe in your immediate environment. You should be thinking, okay, if I'm going to have to move this product, say from Jos now all the way to Lagos, because that is where the market is, are there logistics for me to be able to move this product from where my farm is all the way to Lagos, where I'm supposed to sell this product? People are not thinking. The basic thing is that they still are not thinking as the people in the agricultural sector generally are still not looking at this agriculture as a business. If you are looking at it as a business, then it becomes holistic, because you have to start to think from, this is what I want to plant, but the land that I have and the location where my land is will determine what I have to plant, and then the market where I'm going to sell this product will also determine what I want to plant, and then the people, every other thing in between, including the inputs that needs to be used. Some people are even using fertilizer that they don't even understand how it works. So you find somebody in the east where there is a lot of nitrogen in the soil using fertilizer that has a lot of nitrogen. You end up having low yield, and then you're wondering to yourself what is going on.
I really need to ask this. The issue of looking at from pre-production, all the planning from the beginning, the very beginning. Does this also have to do with the issue of certification?
It depends. If, for instance, you are looking at export markets, especially for crops that Nigeria has competitive advantage in the international market, then your best option, if you want to look at agriculture as a business, is to ensure that you meet the certification, the standard that the international market requires. So there are crops that the best market is if these crops are certified. Then you have to look for the basic certification that would help your product to get into those markets, and get those certification, comply with the standards, get the certification, and then you start to look at export market. Even if, for instance, you want to service both the Nigerian market and the export market, because, for instance, if you plant ginger, for instance, and then at the end of the year you find out that there is a lot of ginger in the market, if you don't plant it according to a standard that would give you an opportunity to be able to export this ginger, at the end of the day you find yourself with a lot of ginger in your hands. There is a market for the ginger outside of the country for export, and you are not able to export it because you have not met the standard that the international market requires.
Yeah, you did mention products that we have comparative, advantage on. There are so many of them. For instance, Nigeria is one of the largest producers of cassava, as it is, and of course other products. But then some of those products don't even make it to the market. Those that make it to the market, either for one reason or the other, get spoiled along the way, and we don't really make as much profit as we should make from these agricultural products. Now, what should be the focus once we're talking about those areas that we have comparative advantage on?
The focus should be the market where these products have to be sold. You first have to identify what products they are. The second is the standard that the market requires for these products to be sold. The form, because it's not, some of them, like cassava, for instance, nobody is going to export cassava tuber. That means the cassava has to be processed into pellets or processed into cassava flour. It means that the issue of post-harvest handling again and then processing has to be put in place. You have to process it in terms of the moisture content to the acceptable moisture content for the international market. Then you have to look at the fiber content, the purity content, and all of those things. All of them have to be in place. And if, for instance, the market wants organic certified cassava flour, like in the US market, because of the people who are doing paleo diet, they are looking for organic certified cassava. So even if Nigeria has a lot of cassava and it's not organic certified according to the NOP, which is the National Organic Program of the United States, the USDA is they are the ones that have that regulation. If your product is not certified according to that standard, it cannot get into that market, even if there is a gap in that market that your product can fill.
You see, that's that's quite interesting to know. Now, what role does technology, really play in avoiding some of these harvest losses, post-harvest losses that we encounter in this country? What role can technology really play?
Technology will play a lot of roles when it comes to post-harvest handling, because number one, the processing. There is a lot of technology involved in preservation of this product after they have been harvested. Preservation in terms of keeping the product, the shelf life, prolonging the shelf life of these products. There is also technology even in terms of marketing, because if the technology that people are using to market fabrics, for instance, they apply that kind of technology in marketing agricultural products, you will realize that people can go online and find say someone that is looking for bitter cola, for instance, 100 tons of bitter cola, and the person is looking for it. The person who is looking for it is in the north, and there is bitter cola somewhere in the southwest, wasting away. And if there is no technology for them to connect online, someone who is in the north with someone who is in the southwest, the person would end up losing that opportunity, because they will not even know that there is something there. It happens in a lot of commodities. So if they would have like a platform, say like a farmer's platform, where people can go online and check and say, okay, I'm looking for this. You have a platform of all the farmers who produce it, especially farmers that have been verified, because there are a lot of portfolio farmers, but farmers that have been verified, you know what quantity the farmer is producing. If the farmer is producing according to a standard, you know what standard the farmer is producing. Even the people who are outside of the country can go and access those kind of platform and find what exactly they are looking for, and connect with that market.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about this issue of food security as it concerns the primary producers. But let's turn our attention a little bit to governments. What role should the state governments do to encourage some of these
farmers?
Part
of the contribution for every state that has land, because again, it's not all the states that have a lot of arable land, but good a thing that the states in the north have a lot of arable land. One of the things I've always advocated for the states to do is to work with people who have technology. For instance, rather than going to China or India or Europe to buy tractors, I would rather have these tractor companies come into my state, if I was a state governor, and say, look, I have 1,000 or 10,000 hectares of land that I can give as equity, and then these people bring in their tractors, and then I get another company that will bring in irrigation system as investment. These people bring in their tractor as investment, these other people bring in irrigation system as investment, and then we prepare the land and give out this land as lease to people. So farmers can now come and lease this land for 2 years and use it for the next 2 years. So you are able to control exactly what is going on there. You are able to say, okay, look, if you are working here, we would advise that you plant, say, if, for instance, in Jigawa now, you want to, let's plant hibiscus, because as a government, it's easy for us to be able to, when we attend trade missions, to be able to get an off-taker who wants to off-take, say, UTZ certified hibiscus. So people come in, they take 1 hectare, 2 hectares of land, and even if they don't have cash to pay, they will pay in consideration other than cash. So at the end of the production season, when it is time for harvest, they will pay us maybe 20%, 30% of their harvest as consideration for the land that they leased, and then we offtake the balance. It becomes even attractive for young people to want to become a part of it, because now they are not looking for market anymore. There is already a ready market for them. And then the commodity boards, all of these commodity boards that have been set by state government will actually have something to do, because there will now be a commodity that the state is known for, and the state on that basis can now attract investment, because if they know that you have about 10,000 hectares of hibiscus, someone who produces hibiscus tea and wants to put it, process and sell as packed tea, can come and set up their processing facility there. Some people can come and
much time, but I'd like you to answer this question in just 1 minute. Can we look at the option of opening up the public-private partnership, in agriculture in just 1 minute?
That is the only way that agriculture would work. A public-private partnership is the only way that agriculture would work, because if private people are given opportunity and enabling environment to come into the agricultural space, they would come in with technology like they have done with the IT sector. Yeah. They would come in with finance, and then they will come in with the necessary manpower to move this sector forward.
All right, thank you very much. Public-private partnership is a way to go in ensuring food security in Nigeria. I've been speaking with an AGRIC expert, Annabel Kanuche. Many thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, it's now time to go over to the Capital Market Review segment, where we have Bosede Abel standing by to give us an analysis of how the market fared last week. Do stay with us.
Thank you very much, Chimobi. Hello and welcome. Here is a review of the Nigerian stock market for the first week of September, which ended on the 6th of September 2019. The month was off to its first weekly loss, with the all-share index shedding 1.38% to close the week at 27,146.57 points, while the market capitalization stood at 13.2 trillion naira. 1.1 billion shares worth 17.082 billion naira were traded in 15,431 deals by investors. Activities were driven by the financial services industry, with 752.4 million shares valued at 9.9 billion naira in 8,519 deals. It was followed by the conglomerate industry with 93.2 million shares worth 239.2 million naira in 883 deals. The third place was the construction and real estate industry, with a turnover of 65.8 million shares worth 66.7 million naira in 100 deals. The top three equities, Guaranteed Trust Bank, Access and Zenith Bank, jointly accounted for 530.3 million shares worth 9.096 billion naira in 3,604 deals. A total of 3,692 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 1.9 million naira, were traded in 10 deals. Also traded were 47,690 units of federal government bonds, valued at 51.008 million naira in 15 deals. 27 equities appreciated in price, 34 equities depreciated in price, while 105 equities remained unchanged. On the global scene, hope of progress between China and the U.S. offset worries surrounding the major economies. According to the Chinese commerce industry, the two largest economies could return to the negotiating table next month. In the United States, the Dow and S&P 500 both gained at least 1.5% on the week, while the Nasdaq Composite climbed 1.8%. In Asia, markets also took a positive turn as the Shanghai Composite gained 0.46% to end at about 2,999.6. The Hang Seng Index added 0.56% and Nikkei closed 0.54% higher at 21,199.57. Market participants in Europe continue to monitor political uncertainty in Britain, with 55 days scheduled to leave the European Union, while in Africa, stocks were mostly mixed as concerns over xenophobic attacks in South Africa rise. That's the much we have for you on the week ended 6th September 2019 market review. The concluding part of the program continues with Chimobi. I am Bosede Abel.
All right, thank you very much, Bosse. And it's on that note that we'll wrap it up on this week's edition of the program, The Portfolio. Remember to be part of this conversation by following us on those handles showing right there on your screen. I'm Chiwobi Walter Naji. See you next week.